BeTheTalk, episode 329, featuring Amanda Crowell. Welcome to BeTheTalk. We go behind the talk 7 days a week for tips and techniques to help you change the world. I'm Nathan Eckel, and a talker myself. I'm interviewing others who change the world with their talk. You can too, even if you've never given a talk before. Let's get started with today's show. We are live with Amanda Crowell. Amanda, are you ready to talk?
I am ready to talk.
Dr. Amanda Crowell, PhD, is a cognitive psychologist, speaker, and growth coach determined to unleash the very best in the world's changemakers. Amanda works with coaches, therapists, and mission-driven entrepreneurs to break through their resistance and make massive progress. Amanda Crowell, welcome to the talk.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here. It's great to see you again.
Yeah, likewise. And your talk is called 3 Reasons You Aren't Doing What You Say You Want to Do. And Talk Universe, a little disclaimer here, because I wasn't technically in the room for Amanda's talk. I was backstage. This is TEDx Harrisburg. It's still so recent. At the time of this recording, the video, we're waiting for it to be live. And I read Amanda's amazing bio just like I just did. And then I walked backstage where there's no monitor. And I actually didn't get to really hear her talk other than kind of the phone person on Peanuts with the want. That's what it sounded like. So I'm going to ask Amanda to kind of recap the talk very briefly for us and to take us behind the talk.
Yes, absolutely. So the talk is called 3 Reasons Why You're Not Doing What You Say You Want to Do. And it talks about the mindset blocks that keep people from doing the hard work that they say they want to do. So people have a lot of goals and people tend not to make much progress on those goals. And the question that this talk answers is, why is that the case? So one of the reasons, there are 3. One of the reasons is that somewhere deep inside themselves, they feel like they can't do it. The second reason is that they believe that people like them don't do things like this. And the third reason is that actually secretly they don't want to do it. So we walked through each of those, and I shared my personal story with how I got into this work and the experience I had of applying it to my life, and told a couple of jokes. People laughed, and that was my talk.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, how awesome was that? Can you take us a little bit behind the scenes of how do you craft a talk, and how do you really bring a talk forth that really aligns with the brand of professional that you are? I mean, I just thought that you really presented it very well and you aligned it very well. And so many times we just kind of, want to give a good TED talk, but we don't really align it as well with what we're trying to accomplish.
Yeah. So that's a great question. And it comes out of sort of the larger story of the work that I've been doing. So I have been working in the space of mindset blocks for about 6 years. I started working with schools who were trying to re-engage students who were struggling with school. And around that time, I realized in my own life that I had this entrenched problem. I never ever exercised, and I had this back problem, and I had to figure out what I could do to actually break through a deeply entrenched problem in my own life. And I thought, if these are the strategies that we can use to re-engage people who are struggling with school, can we use those strategies to re-engage people in an area of their life where they are also struggling? And so over the course of about 3 years, I broke through the mindset blocks and I moved into action, and I was able to learn how to run and bike and swim. And I did a triathlon and a half marathon. And it was like this impossible outcome. It should never have been possible because it was so categorically not who I was. So I did that work, and I was like, everybody needs to know about this. Like, I got to take this out of just the schools. I still work with schools. I have to take this out of the schools. And I started doing workshops in New York City at this place called the Brooklyn Brainery, which is a community-driven education organization. I did like 17 workshops in the first year. So I had really been figuring out how to share this message for a long time. And then the next year after that, I did it as sort of a keynote speech. So I did 21 of those keynote speeches a year after that. And then I was accepted for the TED Talk. So I was like, oh, this is no big deal. I will, and in fact, I applied to a lot of different TED organizations within driving distance of my house because I knew I wanted to do one, but I knew exactly what it would be about. And I was accepted at TEDx Harrisburg, which is amazing. And I was like, this is going to be easy. I'll just take what I already know, having done more than 40 different presentations about this, not including all the presentations I've done at schools. And I put it together and sent off my, when you do a TED Talk, there's like steps. You have to send in an outline and then you have to send in a script. So I skipped all the deadlines and just sent my script in and sort of backburnered it because I had a lot of other stuff going on. And then one day I practiced it and it was like 21 minutes long, which is like too long. Like it can't be that long.
Yep.
It's not
supposed to be that long.
No.
But that's not actually, as a first draft, that's not bad. And that's very, very, very common. It's always going to go long. That's why it's a draft.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And it did. And it scared me. And I was like, this is, and one of the questions that you're going to ask later, I know, is whether I'm a improviser or a rehearser or a blender, I think you called it. And I was a hardcore improviser. I'm a good speaker. Like, give me something to talk about. I'll take 10 or 15 minutes, just think about like, what stories do I want to tell? And I will crush it. But I couldn't because I tried it again and again and again. And every time it would go over or I would miss important parts. And this talk really mattered to me. I feel like it's a platform. It's going to be on my website. It's going to be featured. Like I needed it to be good. So I realized I had to do it a different way. And so, I had to go on a really different path for me. So as opposed to just making outlines, showing up and like being charismatic and hoping for the best, I actually went in the complete opposite direction. I did a lot. I memorized the whole thing and I did like 6 rehearsals.
Well, you did the hard work that the format really requires to give a solid idea worth spreading, as opposed to the workshops and the performance, the keynotes, the paid speaking, all the things that you're doing. And I congratulate you, Amanda, for doing that, because so many other professionals like you that are at the top of their game and they're used to flying around jet setting and you modify your thing 10% for each client, and you just do 10% because you got your little trademark talk presentation. And then you're like, oh, here's this TED Talk. I'm going to just tweak that. Here's the way that it works. I mean, you're a great communicator, so it would have worked out great for you anyway, but it wouldn't have really been an idea worth spreading or a TEDx talk. And other people who really love that format, who are real tribal, TEDx type tribe people, they'd be like, oh, this was somebody who just went through the motions, gave some good, but it didn't really invest in the format. And that's not you. You did invest. You could have been the other kind, but you didn't. You invested, you did the hard work, and you took the high road and the low road of humility, of adapting what you do, pouring a lot more time, energy that you didn't have to do that. And you still did it anyway. So congratulations. And I'd love for you to speak to that.
Yeah. Thank you, Nathan. That's such a nice way to put it. For me, I felt like, in my bio, it says, I'm obsessed with unleashing the very best in the world's change makers. And that really is my mission. Like, there are so many people, so many high achievers with so many great ideas. And if we were all unleashed on the world, we could really change it. And I feel like I know that the 3 mindsets, these are the high achievers mindsets. Like, I know if high achievers, change makers in the world really understood the 3 things and how they're playing out in their lives, it would unleash them. It would make it possible for them to begin to take steps. So it was partly because I really respect the TED brand and entity and the power that it can have. I wanted to show up with my best because I trust the TED brand to like get it out to people. I really wanted to do my best work, but I also wanted to do my best work because I needed and I'll tell you, I feel like it worked, and I'll tell you why. Okay, let me back up. I wanted to show up with the best ideas, like the best way to share these three things. Because if people in the audience could translate it into their lives and would come up to me afterward, not saying, right? Every time you do a timeshare, you do it, I do it, anybody who does talks, people come up to them and say, that was a really great talk, so interesting, you're so whatever about you. What I love is when somebody comes up to you after a talk and is like, you were great, but let's talk about me. I did this and I really resonated with what you said and I had this experience. They translated it. They applied it in their own head. And that happened, I would say, this is why I was so blown away by the experience. That happens, 2 or 3 people will come up to me after the end of a speech and really talk to me about that. Usually almost everybody at the TED Talk who came up to talk to me said, you were great, but I had this experience. I was doing this. I was really like, do you think I could? Do you have any resources? They were in their own head. And that to me is the point.
Absolutely. You know, we do a course on getting accepted for people that also want to get accepted. And there are those 3 roadblocks. There are those 3 secrets. And the first one is really, it's the internal roadblock of, can I? And what we got to do is we got to turn that, and really what this podcast is all about, and all of my guests help me do, we're here to turn your can I do this too that's going on. Everybody listening to this, right? Can I do this too? Or can I do another one? And we want to turn that into a how can I? So yes. in that, best segue I've ever made, we're going to talk more about that in just a moment in the Blitz round. Hey, Talk Universe. I hope you've been enjoying today's episode with today's guest. But you know what? Many people want more than that. Many people that listen to Be the Talk actually want to give a talk. And if that's you, you're not alone. Listen to the rest of this podcast. At the end, I'll have a free resource for you just for listening. And we are back with Dr. Amanda Crowell. It is time for the Blitz round. I'm going to ask Amanda a series of either or questions related to the preparation and performance of her recent TEDx talk. Amanda, are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right. So we talked about you applying. Any advice? What advice do you have for people who are also trying to get accepted?
Yeah. My advice is get really clear on what your idea worth spreading is first. Get passionate about it, get excited about it, and then apply to as many as possible. It's a numbers game. It's about the fit. It's about somebody just seeing it and clicking with it. And that is just be ready and apply as fast as you can.
Yeah, that's exactly what we do. We have 2 habits out of the 5 that we recommend, and 2 of them are finding the events and then tracking your applications. Because the more you do that, it's like getting a better job or getting a college acceptance. It's the same thing, and there's the art of it, but it's really more the science of it. Is what I found, and I did the same exact thing. So here's that question again. You mentioned, well, we talked about this. We talked about your improvisation, and congratulations on you for realizing, hey, if I'm a top level professional, but I'm not a top level professional TED talker until and unless I really lean in and unlearn and relearn this. So for people who are got their game on and maybe they got invited. Because some of the people, some of the people that I review, and even some of my guests, as great as all my guests are, I look and sometimes looking back, the ones that gave good presentations, but not necessarily quintessential talks, I find out in the interview they were invited to speak, so they didn't apply, and there wasn't. So could you speak to those people in there? Maybe they were invited to speak and they're really tempted. Hey, I'll just customize my talk 5% because my buddy asked me to speak, and all of that. Don't do that. Give a real talk. What's your advice, Amanda?
I have a 2-part advice. The first is be if you're invited to talk, get really clear before don't phone it in. Get clear about what it can do for you. What is the one thing that you want people to take away from that talk? Like what idea are you hoping to spread? What change are you trying to create? And get yourself passionate about it. If you had applied, you would have gone through the process of becoming passionate about it. That's part of what happens. And then the risk of applying and the potential for rejection invests you in it. You didn't have that, so you have to come back to it and invest yourself in it by really getting clear about what you can get from it. Yeah. And then the second thing I would say is if you were invited to give a TED Talk, chances are you're very, very busy and you will not, the time to practice is not going to fall out of the sky. You have to take it on yourself to schedule rehearsals. I would get 5 or 6 different opportunities to do it in front of 5 or 6 different groups, whether it's an invited talk on Zoom or something that you're doing for a local networking group. Get those on the calendar so that you have to be ready to give your worst version of it, like at least 2 weeks before the actual TED Talk. So you have that accountability that you have in place to improve.
Now, this is going to be, this is my last question, but this is going to be fun because, again, I introduced you on the stage that day, emceeing this. So I love this question since I was literally feet from you at this time. What was the most unexpected, strange, or just plain weird thing that happened, including maybe me introducing myself to you earlier that morning? Unexpected, strange, or just plain weird thing that happened before or during your talk?
Okay. So there was, that's such a good question. Okay, here it is. Oh, I know. I have the best answer. Okay. So I rehearsed the crap out of this talk, right? Like I knew I had like metrics about this talk by the end, like this specific, like story tends to go sideways in this way. And here's how I know if it's right. And when I walked off the stage and I felt like it went really well, people said to me, remember how I said they were like, you were great, but let's talk about me. In the you were great part, the thing they said most often was, you were so natural. I felt like we were just having a conversation. And I was like, what? I thought they were going to think I was really rehearsed, but all that rehearsal, all that knowledge, like really being allowed me to just be with them in the room. And I remember seeing people like, which normally I'm so in my head about what's coming next. Like I remember seeing people and thinking like, oh, thank you so much for sitting there, like nodding your head the whole time. It was so great. And they were like, I can't believe you recognized me. So it allowed me to be in the moment in a way that I hadn't expected.
Well, isn't that great? I mean, and that's the key about preparation. We feel like it's very unnatural because we're not necessarily used to doing it. Those of us that are maybe more performing artists, it's a little different because we are used to over preparing so that it does become natural. But that's a function and a feature of being super prepared so that you can then be in the moment because you're not as freaked out, even though you are freaked out, but you walk out and the preparation kicks in and then you can, use the freak out, lean into the freak out and make the connection. And that's what you did, Amanda. So congratulations for that.
Thanks. Thank you.
We've been enjoying this Blitz round with Dr. Amanda Crowell. Her talk is called 3 Reasons You Aren't Doing What You Say You Want to Do. And you can watch that talk over at our website, show notes at BeTheTalk.com. We're still waiting for it to be released. It is that new. And you can also go to AmandaCrowell.com to find out about these amazing high performance tools that she has and techniques and tips and everything that she studies. Amanda Crowell is spelled Crowell, AmandaCrowell.com. And we'll be right back with Amanda Crowell with the final word of advice in just a moment. Hey, Talk Universe. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. And if you want to give the talk to change the world, but you don't know how or even where to start, no problem at all. Go to BeTheTalk.com/get accepted for my new 5-day email course that'll show you how. Absolutely free. Just go to BeTheTalk.com/get accepted. And we're back with Amanda Crowell. It is time for the final word of advice. What is it?
Yeah. So my advice is, and this is for people who want to do a TED Talk or any other amazing thing. The key to it is understanding, if you can, what's happening in your own mind that has you sort of limited, that's keeping you blocked, that's keeping you from taking just any step. You find yourself shut down. And finding a way to suspend that disbelief and moving into action. The only thing that differentiates you from a person who's doing what you want to do is that they are in action and they stay in action. And when things get hard, they just keep moving. So if you can take on that habit, there's really nothing that can stop you.
Amanda Crowell, thank you so much for carving out time to be on the talk today and sharing your wisdom with Talk Universe.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for listening to Be the Talk. For tips and resources to help you change the world, go to BeTheTalk.com. See you tomorrow.